Hello, everybody,
Hello,
and
everybody.
and a special hello, of course, to my guests, to our guests, our dear friend Demi. Long time no see, Demi.
Yeah, I wondered what had happened to you.
Oh, listen, a lot of things happened, and not much basically since my last adventure with the Mega Magaland, being a candidate for Congress. I lost to the guy who's the most powerful guy in Congress these days on the Democrat side. On the Democrat side. Because
Yes.
they're the minority now. But he's like the nasty. I don't know. Absolutely, we don't want to talk about him. We'll
No.
talk about it when time comes.
All right.
Now it's not the time to talk about. No time to panic. And how are things on your end?
Well, the weather is peculiar for the summer. I mean, everybody talks about Britain being rainy 500 days a year, but really it's been very rainy the past month. My farmer, the guy where I keep the farm where I keep my horses, he's practically in tears because his crops ruined, completely ruined, and it's all over the country. He told me of a colleague of his who had an entire crop, several fields, completely flattened by a hailstorm. Hailstones like golf balls, he said.
Yeah, we had a
And
dealership destroyed entirely up in upstate New York. I heard, by hail. The best cars, best Lexus, etc., etc.
this
Oh,
year,
yeah, with the hail.
oh, yeah. Okay. Anyway, yes. So I'm riding my horse in between rainstorms, basically.
Wow.
But
That's
it's
courageous. That's courageous of you.
do you know? I want to tell you. Can I tell you? Can I talk about this, or do you
Oh,
want to talk about?
absolutely. No, no, no. I promised I will talk less because yesterday I
So,
had a guy and I ended up talking to him.
oh, all right, fair enough. Well,
Yeah,
I'll
go
tell
ahead.
you what. I went out. It was a beautiful sunny day. This was couple of months ago. It was a beautiful, bright blue day. The sun was sparkling off the cornfields. The flowers were blooming. I thought, oh, this is a great day to go out on a really long ride. So I was out on this really long ride, and I was about like an hour away from home. And I saw on the horizon this little black cloud just peeping up over the hills. And I thought, oh, that's not
Not a
that's
good
not going to
cloud.
come over. No. I mean, look at the sky; it's blue. You know, there are a few like Simpsons type fluffy clouds
Yeah.
floating about. No, that's not. And as I was riding along, and all I was wearing, honestly, was riding jeans
Hmm.
and a t-shirt and my hat, of course, and that was it. So uh, that cloud came closer and closer and start. You know, there's I think it's in the Bible something like a cloud no bigger than a man's hand. I seem to remember that quote, and then turning into something horrible. Well, basically, that was what happened. This cloud started to take over the sky. There was this dark, looming shape coming closer and closer, like a lid coming over the dome.
Wow.
And then it started, and then when it came overhead, of course, water just fell out the sky. I mean, talk about a monsoon shower or something. I would have won a wet t-shirt competition at that point. I would absolutely, and we were plodding back. The horse didn't like it. I certainly didn't like it, and it was like half an hour in this rainstorm. And yeah, that's what. And you can never tell over here in this country. You know, it
Yeah.
started off so. Anyway, that's my story.
Yeah.
Right.
Brits are ever optimistic so much. You know what? I made some traveling. We did some traveling this period that we didn't see each other,
Yeah.
and we went to Jordan of all places.
Oh, did you see Petra?
Yeah, we did a
Ah,
lot
wanted to see that.
we've been there. It's we walked for it turned out to be 25-kilometer walk on Petra over all those rocks. And there's much more to see. Of course, it's a huge they call it national park.
Yeah.
And I think that Americans and the South Koreans should be let in for free. It's not the case, of course, because every kind of insignia bears the sign built made with help of support either
Ah,
Samsung or USA. But
right.
forget it, it's done deal. But you mentioned the weather, and we were there related to Petra. We were there twice, and we decided to get because when you have to, there's some tickets you have to buy prior to
Mhm.
going there. It's called Jordan Pass, and it gives you some semi dubious benefits of saving money. So we did that. Anyway, so we discovered there is an entrance called Little Petra, and this is for the Bedouins, for those on whose land this thing is situated. So, and they, of course, don't have to pay to enter this, and they have certain benefits, pretty much like American Indians, for the use of land. Unlike American Indians, they hate the government. They're all armed, and I found much more in common with the Jordanian Bedouins, with rather than with anybody else in that country. But anyway, so in one day we went through a flood, through a
Oh, they have
sandstorm.
terrible flash floods there.
Yeah.
I was, I my solicitor, the
Mm-hmm.
lawyer,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
uh, he was killed. He was in a flash flood somewhere in the Middle East. I don't know where it was. It was probably in Jordan. And he was hiking with friends down a wadi, and there was a sudden flash flood, and he was drowned. That was the end of my solicitor.
No, it was, yeah. In our case, we came out alive, but it was kind of panicky because they started rushing people out, and it's a narrow passage, and the peaceful Bedouins are making coffee for you for $1 Jordanian dollar.
Yeah,
Coffee, of course, was the cardamom, which
yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't stand it, but I had to.
The little,
I couldn't make them, do it without cardamom.
yeah.
But it's fun anyway. So it's the rain began, and the streams of water were running down the walls of this,
When you
yeah,
were
of
in
this narrow
Iraq, yeah,
canyon. We
yeah,
were there, and water started right before our eyes started rising, and people were rushed, and there were some really narrow places, and I see people running back saying, "I dropped my phone into the water, and water is already up to your waist." So and my wife was so excited by all this. She started filming, and she's filming and filming and say, "This is what you see in on TV when people are get so involved in the goings on. They treat it as a TV themselves,
yeah,
being in a situation. It's time to run. Put away
yeah.
the phone."
There's there's a peculiarity to the soil in that area, as I understand it. What happens when it's very fine dust, and there's some sort of reaction? I think it's something like surface tension when the water, because I mean the ground is so dry,
Mhm.
you'd expect the water to go straight in there, but when there's a sudden deluge, then what happens is it's called, hang on, it's called Loess, Loess. It's a German word, and it forms like a
Oh,
skin.
less. Yeah, yeah. I know. There's a word like that in Russian too.
And then the water, and even however dry
Hmm.
the land is, it just makes like it makes a waterproof seal, and so the water, and even worse, because it's like this fine powder, it actually helps the water go
Yeah,
faster.
it kind of cakes up.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's an interesting land altogether because it was crossroads again. This whole Petra was built by Nabatians,
yeah, yeah.
uh, Semitic tribe, and not exactly Jews, but
I don't think they were Jews at all. They were pagans, weren't they?
no, yeah. In terms of, I mean, how they call it, DNA wise, so to speak.
Oh, you mean
Yeah,
Semitic people? Yeah.
yes, Semitic people, yes. But it was interesting because they were uh, like I realized like a lot of people say that Muhammad was highway robber, etc., etc. But Prophet Muhammad, but basically that was the business for everybody. At the in the ancient times, all the villages they were on the lookout. Not everybody was like gatherers and hunters. Some of
Hmm.
them were looking for someone to pass by and get them robbed, and that was very common practice and common occupation. But say we came across one place that was very eerily reminding me of some Babylonian structure, not exactly Greek or Roman.
Babylonian.
Babylonian, yes.
In what way? Did it have Assyrian type carvings on it? Winged
It
lion?
had a lion, and it was interestingly, it was a lion with a
But
little.
surely the Bible mentions that that area was taken over by Persians, wasn't it? And Assyrians. And so
Mm.
they could have built their own buildings there as well.
No, I researched this on the spot and later on, and what I found out that this palace, I think I forgot the name of it, but I have it someplace. It was a powerful Jewish family, Tobias, that had a huge complex, both for the funereal purposes and for a piece of land, and they were practically ruling over this area. And they were one
When
of
was
those.
that?
It was the Maccabean times.
Oh, yeah,
So they
post
were
Greek.
one of those who were kind of punished by Maccabees for being
Mhm.
too fancy and straying away from religion.
Oh,
And
I
it was
see.
very very interesting to be there. And of course there are there are caves nearby, and we saw it up top on the mountain. So we went up there, and it turned out to it looks strange. After that I started searching for what this place is, because inside the cave, what's a cave? Cave is a there's nothing, there's no furniture,
Yeah.
just a space, right? And this one was very different because it had a row carved out of the limestone or some such, and seats, about 20 seats probably next to each other, with the
Around the
armrests
walls.
along one wall,
Yeah, yeah.
and the other wall was just a regular wall, nothing, blank. And it turned out that that was like the getaway place for the Tobias, for this family. If the palace would be taken over, they would hide there and they would hold the court. So this is
Hmm.
for the official procedures, with
Yeah.
all accoutrements and comforts that would suit such an occasion, even in a cave. So it
Mhm.
tells you about the mindset a lot of those people. Listen,
It's
yeah, go ahead.
I really want to see Petra. It's quite well, it is a very remarkable piece of of
If you
of
decide to
world
go,
history.
I'll tell to call me. I'll let you know
Okay,
the do's and don'ts.
right.
There's a lot of don'ts. But I wanted to ask you, we are talking critically a lot together and apart about the problems in the UK and in the United States. And I pay special attention to the fact that some people know who try to get into our countries from outside. We have a lot of migrants, a lot of they call them illegals, they call them whatever names they can come up with. But those people know something about our countries that we know less of, maybe, because they still try to get uh, into our countries, into the United States, into the United Kingdom. Uh, Whereas a lot of people who we know are thinking, listen, maybe we should spend some time outside of this country, seeing the turmoil, especially in the United States. Maybe we should look to spend the rest of our life someplace else. Uh, it's so critical, looking at the media, looking at the politics, looking at what's going on. Less so in Britain, I trust nowadays. But what you see in the United States is just a circus like no other ever.
I think we have a problem of democracy. It's an inbuilt problem. And I don't see a way out of it. And I can speak for the UK only,
Sure.
but I suspect it's got its echoes in the USA as well. That there's a group of people who are able to vote, but who are accepting some sort of benefit from the government. Unemployment benefit, disability benefit. I'm not saying they're all bad people, but they would be idiots not to vote for people who would maintain their benefit. And it used to be that there was a balance, but it seems to me more now that the balance is tipping in the wrong direction. And people are voting for, basically they're voting for benefits. So when, say, Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, has decided to make an ultra-low emission zone all over London within the M25, which is a huge area. And much of it on those outskirts is rural. It's not like filthy city centres. So what he said was, you can't drive a car that's even a petrol, no diesel, but certainly no petrol cars over 12 years old. Now, there are many people who depend on their cars for work. Plumbers, builders, tradesmen, delivery people. They've all got vans, and many of them are very old. Some of them are diesel. And Sadiq Khan said, well, that's all right. I'll give you a scrappage, right? You know, a grant so you can buy a new car. That it's like the money just appears from, nowhere.
Yeah, it's your own money. Hello.
Yeah, right. So, and that's the problem. There's this attitude that the government gives you money and nobody is thinking, well, that's not the government's money. The people who don't care. They're getting the money.
Yeah.
The people who do have leave London, like we left London. So the balance is going to start, shifting. And it's all over the country. It's not like there's anywhere you can really run to, by the way.
Yeah, and they want to push the envelope even farther, as we say in the States. They want to do the digital currency now, digital money. So there will be not even a shred of paper involved, not even it's just push of a button and the government gets more money.
That's taken something of a hit here in this country, fortunately. It's like occasionally I do consider that God maybe is an Englishman. Because every time the government tries to really mess up, something funny intervenes. And in this case, it was Nigel Farage's bank account. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, they closed his bank. His bank closed his account based on political convictions.
It was political convictions. They said they implied that it was because he was poor as a church mouse. And then it turned out that it was simply political. I did a video about it, reading out some of the comments. They'd compiled a dossier on him, 40 pages thick. And they were quoting stuff from left-wing newspapers who were saying he's a racist. And I mean, just what commentators were saying. It wasn't hard evidence. Anyway, that's brought to everyone's attention the problems of digital currency. And I think that has, at least for a while, scuppered that idea in this country.
Yeah, there was the cars. They would the electric cars and self-driving cars, even more so. They can immobilize you, and it just opens the door, like with the And I'm a big
You know, just a minute. I'm going to interrupt you here.
sure.
You have to remember this, Yura. There is no such thing as a self-driving car.
Explain.
Any car that you are not operating is being operated by someone else. It's being operated by someone in California or by someone in Westminster. Doesn't matter. But it's not a self-driving car. Whatever it is, it's a car that is being driven by someone who you hope is friendly, but needn't be. I just thought I'd bring that in there.
But this someone has to be as crazy as an average Brooklyn or London driver, or Brooklyn or London pedestrian, because people do crazy things.
London drivers are very good drivers. They
Without
really are.
exception.
Oh, there are exceptions.
Other people who just rented it first time discovered they got to sit on the wrong side in the car to drive it.
That does happen. There was a terrible accident here where an American, she was the wife of somebody in I don't know, I don't remember the name. She was the wife of somebody who was on an American base, I think, an army base, and she hit a cyclist and killed him. And then she ran for the army base and they spirited her away. She's an American now. And the British government couldn't do anything about it. And she claimed diplomatic immunity. It's a shocking case.
How long ago was it?
I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. The case has been dragging on, so it's difficult to know. But the point was, I'm sure that she was on the wrong side of the road, maybe just completely accidentally. The shocking thing is not that she killed somebody, but that she didn't face the music afterwards and was protected by her government.
And the British government couldn't do anything about it.
Well, they just got her out straight away. She went straight to a thing. I think she was out the next morning before anyone
there were
could do
cases
anything.
before they would get people out and let them face the music. I drove on the left side of the road when I was in Cayman, in the Cayman Islands. They have the same thing, but it was kind of half and half because I got an American car. So the wheel was on the left side,
That's
and you
bad.
also have to drive.
That's bad.
So
It doesn't make any sense driving on the right side of the road. I mean, if you've got a gear shift car, a manual car, you've got your hands on the steering wheel. It's your right. I mean, in most cases, it's your right hand that's the more adept one. And when you change gear, you put your left hand down, change the gear, and you're still using your right hand to hold the wheel. Yeah, go on.
What I read was this came from the carriages used to be on the left side because of the whips that the driver would have. And when you have a whip, so you can hit accidentally someone who's on the sidewalk. So as opposed to hitting your colleague who's moving in the
direction.
In another direction.
You mount a horse from the left.
No.
You mount a horse. When you get on a horse.
No, when you're in the carriage, it was the traffic thing was when there were horse carriages in the city, so that the passersby wouldn't be hit. But if you hit another carriage or even the driver of the carriage, then it's kind of more acceptable.
I believe that Ford started with the cars on the left and then switched very quickly to the right, but I don't remember why.
Yeah, it's amazing how this whole thing's. I mean, still very flexible. Our civilization adapts to certain things, and I was wondering how the on your end you see what's going on in the United States, because we have this massive corruption scandal with the Biden family.
Oh,
very
yes.
well documented.
Yes.
And the Democrats they kind of playing stupid. I cannot believe they're that stupid as they say.
No,
Uh,
they're not.
Crazy things like they had this interview with Devon Archer, a gent who was in business with Hunter,
Mhm.
and basically was doing the business part, whatever that was, while Hunter was just fronting for his father, being able to dial his phone number anytime. Hey,
Yeah.
Dad, guess who I'm here with? Say hi. So Dad would say hi. How's the weather, etc., etc. So just to put his kind of vice presidential or Biden imprimatur, and he was he went to such lengths. This Hunter guy, he said, Bidens are the best in Washington. It's in writing. To do what you want, he's writing to the Chinese. The
Yeah.
Bidens are the
I
best.
do not understand how all the news media are cooperating in this. I mean, it's so obvious. And I'm talking about places like the BBC as well, that they're not making as much of it as they should be. There's like this conspiracy of silence.
But the attitude towards Donald Trump isn't changing, right? Still kind of.
No, the lefties do what the lefties do.
Yeah, it's really no argument. I mean, there are some. You see the part that makes our countries, if I may say so, so steady, so stable compared to other things. We may think we see a lot of volatility. We see a lot of things that are uncommon and unusual for those who know what the country is about. But compared to the rest of the world, you look at Russia, what's going on there, and I read the news that this morning. I mean, here on I had a little program before this one in
Yeah.
Russian, so people wouldn't be left without a dose of Mega Maga for the weekend. But in Russia, there are two developments that I wanted to know your opinion about.
Go
First,
on.
after 1976, the first Sputnik went out, and they went to no less to the moon. They want to land in the South Pole, and they want to start doing things there before Elon Musk, before Jeff Bezos, and of course
Ah,
before
yes, they're
NASA.
talking about, that's right. They're talking about shooting for the moon again, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, and and they say there's a lot of minerals that can be used, and
Mm.
space station, all those fantastical ideas on the backdrop of huge war.
Do you
Uh,
know, when I heard that, it was just something that flashed past me, this morning or last night, and I thought, all that money and resources that they've poured into destroying Ukraine, and if they'd only put that into going for the moon, that would have been a legacy that Putin would have been lauded for the rest of human history. It's so tragic what's happened to Russia. I had such hopes for it, you know.
no, I had not. I
Oh,
must tell
really?
you that when the young soldiers, and those are young people we're talking about, when they got into Ukraine, what was one of the most popular trophies they wanted to get back home?
Washing
A
machines,
toilet and a washing machine.
a toilet.
Toilet,
You
yes.
mean an actual basin?
The bowl, yes. The
Yeah.
bowl, beautiful porcelain bowl. I know the stories when the borders were eased in after Soviet Union collapsed, and a lot of people traveled more to, say, Finland from St. Petersburg.
Hmm.
And there are rest areas. I know that's the case, and I never drove in the UK, and I know that here is a case when you drive, you have a rest stop on the side of the road,
Yeah.
and you can go do about your business, to the bathroom, etc., buy something, eat something, drink something. So the drivers from Soviet Union, then Russia later, they were stealing toilet bowls. They were
Feeling what? Oh, they
stealing
were stealing toilet
toilet
bowl.
bowls in those rest areas. Can you imagine this? Putting it in the trunk and going happy home, It's just the Western mind does not think that this thing could be dismounted somehow, taken out and brought home. Whereas that's the level, and a lot of public toilets, like a million public toilets, would greatly improve life conditions in Russia. It's what's going on outside of the Moscow, like you mentioned, this M25 zone, right, in London.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's going on outside of that is very different from what we see in the newsreels, and the life there is just looks a little bit better than it is now on this city, this town in on Maui that got burned down entirely, and that's a
Mm.
normal condition. Russia needs attention. They didn't have a good leader for at least 1,000 years, maybe, because really nothing, not
Yeah,
much
Peter the
changed.
Great was supposed to be pretty good. Catherine the Great was quite good.
If you call yourself a great, you're great,
Did she call
especially if
herself?
you're a king. Of course, listen, the greatness of Russia is something that is greatly debated throughout the history of Russia, and none of good poets, famous great Russian poets, honestly thought that Russia was so great. Even Pushkin, who one time, or Alexander Pushkin, the greatest poet of Russia, he was forced, and he did it with all his talent, to write some patriotic stuff, because Nicholas the First chose him to be his editor, his
Poet
uh,
laureate.
yeah. So he would be next to him, and they loved him to have him on a short leash, and he was incredible poet, incredibly productive, prolific, etc., etc. But his opinion of Russia was very, again, not very favorable. He loved all the benefits of being a serf owner and being an aristocrat, and he wrote a lot of in French, and yep, I think French was the preferred language at the time. But he also was the inventor, as they say, creator of a Russian literary language, modern Russian. But none of them were like they could write about balalaikas and all the beautiful Russian sunsets and the birch trees, etc. But they were, as any thinker, they quite disillusioned what they see around them.
So, which poet was it who was talking about Russia being like a troika?
Oh, he was not a poet. He was
Who was it?
Nikolai Gogol.
Go.
Yeah,
That's
Russian
right.
Ukrainian. He was born in Ukraine, and he was basically he created this just as Pushkin created this Russian language and this image that went through the ages, basically, of Russian aristocracy and life in the estates, etc., etc. So Gogol created this image of Ukraine for consumption in Russia, in particular. It's folk tales that he wrote, and wonderful literature. He's considered the first modernist. He's he started what was developed later by Kafka and others, and Nabokov was. In particular, I recommend every chance I get when the conversation comes to Gogol. My kind of nightcap, so to speak, for this is to recommend the book, Nabokov's book on Gogol. And he wrote it.
Oh, I've never read that.
It's a fantastic book. It was first book of Nabokov that I read in my life. I read it in Russian. I think he wrote it in Russian and in English. And he explains the mindset. He explains the biography, and he was a great biographer. Nabokov was, and with Gogol, he's not afraid to. It's not like how they call it, the hierarchy. Oh my God, like a life of a saint. How they call it, hierarchy.
Oh yeah, oh crikey, Hira is the right
Yeah.
hagiography.
Hagiography, right.
Hagiography, that's the
Hagiography. It's
word.
not a hagiography. A lot of nasty things about Gogol are there, but somehow everything does not destroy. It's all falls into this mosaic. Forgive my cliche comparison, but it all falls into a whole mosaic of a beautiful opinion. And you, after you read the book, your opinion of Gogol and of course of Nabokov is even higher than it was in the beginning. Although there are things that you wouldn't know about Gogol, you would know, you wouldn't want to know about him. So
Really? No, I don't know. I read Dead Souls.
yeah, that's where the first end of the first book, I think, the first tome, is where he says Russia is like a troika,
Yeah.
and a lot of things that basically people today.
Just a minute. Hang on.
Sure.
We've just talked about it being a troika. There might be some people watching this who don't know what the thing about the troika was. So he was saying a troika that was racing out of control.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing there, because when I look at what's happening with Russia now, it does remind me of that. It's like he was a prophet.
He was a prophet, but there was, I mean, this prophet, he spent the best part of his life in Italy. And in the center of Rome, in the park, don't remember the name of the park, but it's a huge park, biggest park maybe in Rome. There is a monument to Gogol. So I was there. I looked at it and I was wondering what kind of spaghetti he liked. Did he like bucatini or linguine? What did he eat? Because you cannot get pork fat, that easily available and consumed in the way that it's done in Ukraine.
I think there was a British poet, it might have been Keats, who wrote a whole essay about how marvelous lasagna is.
No, I understand him wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
It's a place in Italy, another place that was favored by British poets, and it's in Terni. This area, there was it's a whole story that has nothing to do with the States or Great Britain, but we were traveling there. It's in Umbria. And my wife said, listen, there is a waterfall, but we got to be there before 6 o'clock because they turn it off at 6 o'clock.
Just a minute. A waterfall,
a waterfall,
or a fountain?
Yeah, it works. A waterfall, a regular waterfall, but
Yeah.
it's I say, what do you mean? It's a park. You cannot get in there. No, you can see it from the road, but they say they turn it off at 6 o'clock. Say it can't be.
Yeah.
So we go there, and this is the place. It's a Terni, and next to it is Narni. Narni, of course, C.S. Lewis's Narnia, famous from his books. This absolutely elfish-like places, and the British poets loved the place. And there are a bunch of names, starting with Byron, who loved this place, and he's been there. And there is a monument to him, very elegant, where there is a marble bench with the bronze cloak dropped on top of it. So,
all right,
lots of taste.
Yeah. Anyway, so you went to see this?
Yeah, we come there 4 o'clock. There's a lot of mist in the air, so we were prepared. We had some things to put on top of. It's like $1 pieces that you buy and you use
plastic,
and you throw them away.
Plastic,
yeah. So we had it on, and we walked around, and then we decided to get up onto the hill in front of this waterfall. It's pretty spectacular, and it's not one; it's a series, different terraces and the bridges to walk between them. And so there's a path, so we followed the path. We got on top of the hill. And we see people running towards us. And they say, faster, faster, because they're going to close it now. And so we see as the stream gets narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower, and it doesn't disappear altogether. But there's no waterfall the way we saw like 10 minutes ago.
Where's the water coming from?
So that's the story. It's an ancient Roman irrigational structure that they built God knows when, like, I don't know, 3rd century, 2nd century, I don't remember already. Great engineers whose works are well documented. So they had this ameliorating system where they got water from one place and put it into another place. And so they decided for everybody to build this natural looking waterfall, which is like what, 500 years old,
Right.
1500 years old.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, 15, of course. 1500 years old plus change. So absolutely fantastic view. And
Amazing.
I realized like 20 or 30 photographers in a row standing there photographing this waterfall. And there was so the area is also famous for the truffles, Italian truffles.
Truffles.
Yeah,
Okay.
truffles. So Urbani is located there. I'm not a big fan. I'm not against truffles, but it's just to add some truffle flavor.
Okay. I bought a truffle once, and it came in a little bottle, and I opened it, and the smell was overpowering. And I didn't use all of it. I just sliced up a little bit of, I made an omelette. I wanted to see what that was, a starter for some people, and I left it in the fridge, and everything, absolutely everything, was saturated with the smell of truffles.
Yeah, we were.
I mean, I'm a simple woman, I don't know this stuff.
I just come across those things and then pick them up as I go. And that trip also, we were in Perugia. And then Perugia, of course, the land of Perugino, and lots of art, a lot of beautiful things. But also they have here donkey meat sausages.
Oh,
They
yes.
use
Yeah,
donkey meat.
I know about that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, you what?
I bought it. I bought some. Yeah. It was small. They wanted €5 for two small sausages. One is wild boar, and the next to it is. So I decided
Wild boar. I mean, they're nasty animals. They deserve to be eaten. But donkeys, the poor little things, all they want to do is plod along pulling their carts. How can you turn them into sausages? That's horrible.
I didn't do it. I only I only paid for it. It was the truffle season, by the way, and we discovered a little cafe across the street from the restaurant, actually, the street from the court, and it was called like lawyer's cafe, something like that, advocat or something. So we went there a couple of times, and they introduced us to semifreddo, which is like early form of ice cream.
Oh,
Semifreddo.
well, yeah, semifreddo meant sort of half cold. What?
Yeah.
What is it?
Something between an ice cream and whipped cream,
like a slushy.
It's not. It's not kind of. It keeps the shape, keeps the form.
Oh,
so it's nice, and of course it was the truffle season in the truffle land. So when they asked, do you want truffles on your steak, and I said yes. So they brought like a bucket of truffles, and they shaved them like all over the place. It was quite an adventure. It was well before COVID. Yeah,
hundreds of pounds for a meal like that in London.
There it was. I'm telling you, I'm not a big spender on food in particular, and mostly we just grab stuff from like Carrefour or whatever European supermarket we have nearby. So we go there, Spar, or what else is there? Bocopa or something like that. Bocona.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. That's we don't know how it goes in. So we went from vital conversations into that.
Yeah,
it's all my fault. It's all my fault.
There is a place for that too. Look,
psychoanalyze me.
I try to keep focused on one thing. Generally speaking, it's not malice, it's incompetence. And if we go back to this idea of democracy going wrong because people are voting for what they can get, they are going to vote for incompetent people. because it's incompetent people they can get the most out of. And that's the problem. So we have in our government and in yours a lot of very incompetent people. There are some very competent ones, but they stand out like a jewel in a pile of pig shit.
Yeah.
Excuse the language. And that is a problem of democracy. And I actually don't know what to do about that, because it's like a ratcheting system. The more incompetent people you get, the more people are going to vote for incompetent people. And it just keeps on progressing.
Yeah, if this is the law of this planet, of life on this planet, then how come we came so far and we've seen so many beautiful things that were created before us? If it cannot be destroyed, this vicious circle of stupidity.
It's always been backwards and forwards, hasn't it?
Yeah, of course. But
like the Romans had a good civilization. I mean,
the greatest.
There are things about it that we don't like, but it was the sort of civilization where you could get a letter from Hadrian's Wall, which is in the north of England, to Rome in 10 days. That's how good it was.
Yeah,
it went like that, and then it turned to barbarism because the Romans started to become incompetent. People blame it on, Gibbon blamed it on Christianity, actually. But that might have been people grabbing on Christianity because they were incompetent, and they like to think they could put the responsibility to, some sort of religious power. And it's been doing that throughout history. And, I feel really... sometimes I feel really apprehensive. The only thing is that I have the feeling that it will go back and then it'll come forward again. Just probably not in my lifetime, which is a bit disappointing.
You know what? If you ever seen a grain of sand at a very strong magnification.
Looks like a huge rock.
No, it looks like universe. If you magnify smallest things in this world, you see how carefully they are created, how carefully they designed it. You cannot comprehend the purpose of it. Who's going to look at this beautiful crab on this tiny, intricate design? Only people can admire it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not created for people. It was created well before people arrived on this planet.
Yeah.
A few days at least before. Depending on what you believe, right? So I'm saying that we are like we're doing those things that we do today. We were giving those tools, and to be part of the same process that created, excuse my comparison, those beautiful designs on backs of the crabs in the sea. You see, what we're doing now is part of we think that we want to do it, but our thinking is also part of this whole process.
Where are you going with this, Yuri?
I'm going with this. I want to ask you about, to me, it's absolutely spectacular turn of events with the resurrection of Tucker Carlson. There's one person, Tucker Carlson, American commentator.
I went off him when he started lambasting Ukraine and saying that Russia was in the right there. I thought that was despicable.
It was despicable. I agree with you. I spoke out against him. However, small my voice is compared to his. But what happened, he got kicked out of Fox News. And he went to what is called now X. Then it was called Twitter.
I didn't know that. I haven't kept up with him. I really have gone on. I really went
the news of the century.
So what? So tell me about it, please.
So he went there and he started doing interviews with people, following our example. Talking to people.
He did. He was talking to somebody about the January the 6th thing, which I did appreciate.
The last thing.
We knew I mean, everybody knew that there was something odd about that to start with. It wasn't like this was absolutely shocking news.
He got a head of Capitol Police, who was the head of the police at that
Yeah.
day. And what do we see in the program there? What they describe is a perfect picture of a military coup. The
Yeah.
police was cut out of the loop,
Hmm.
and he made that could be one of the reasons why he was taken out of Fox News, banished from there, because what this guy says, Stephen Lund, Lund doesn't matter. No, Sund, Stephen Sund. It's absolutely unheard of, and he recorded an interview with him while he was at Fox, and then they kicked him out, and he said, I have no right to the material that I created at Fox, so I had him over once again.
Right.
And
Okay.
Stephen Sund traveled to him, and it looks like absolutely credible guy who's just fuming at what happened 2 years ago.
But is anybody listening?
Millions and millions. The first transmission, first program of Tucker Carlson on Twitter got, last time I checked, maybe 10 days ago, it was 122 million views. That one is not in the same category, I think, but healthy 50, 60 million, I would say it would gather. Because the funny thing is, what's so strange about it, it's okay. You can find things, you can research things, but Fox cannot touch the same news item for a while because it comes from Tucker, whose name is
right.
forbidden. He's like next to Trump now, cannot be his
But
name.
what's happened to Fox? Why did they chuck Carlson out?
There's a number of reasons floating around. They agreed very easily to compensate for what they called libel, this Dominion voting machine company.
Oh yes, of course, yes.
So very soon after that, literally in days, they fired Tucker, and he didn't know he will be fired on Monday. He had his program on Sunday. He said, "See you Monday." Monday, they announced that he's gone.
Okay.
So Tucker himself mentions that it was one of the conditions of Dominion to get him out of the picture. Why would they want him out? Of course, he reasonably doubted the elections. Of course, he supported, as everybody knows, I mean, not of course, it's not obvious to too many people, he supported Donald Trump. But also it turns out that he was... to me, it's like Democrats would never accept it as a proof of anything. But for any normal person who lived more than, I would say, 20 years, 15 years on this planet, it would be obvious because Dominion was in charge of the electronic voting.
Yeah.
Right? So what happened? Trump lost, Biden won, right? A lot of people will say I'm saying wrong things. I'm not supposed, as a true believer, to say it. Just for the sake of argument, I'm saying. So then we had this very doubtful proceedings where all the cases brought in by Trump team were thrown out. And then we had January 6th, which was actually a riot, an insurrection, an attempt to overthrow the government, the impeding the government proceedings, trespassing, all those things. People got killed, all those things. But now, when they got Tucker out on the premise that he is enemy of Dominion, it kind of shows that Dominion and the Democrat Party and the Biden's White House and Obama's organization are all in cahoots. They covering the situation for each other. So Dominion, and I predict that they're out of business. They got a lot of money. Nobody will want to have business with them because nobody wants for any kind of money. They want this type of trouble that Dominion brought to their client, the American government. So there will be something else in the upcoming elections. But the reason why they got rid of Trump, of Tucker Carlson,
Yeah.
gets in line with everything else that's going on right now. They only want this basically non-existing elite to continue to lord over us. And elite, I don't know how it is in England, if you still believe that there must be an elite left, not aristocrats, but really people of a larger way of thinking, of vision, of what associated
Well,
with.
there's always talk about that.
Yeah, but it's basically gone, and until we recreate this elite, we regrow, so to speak, this type of people, and they may be not to our liking, not all of them, but they need to have a vision. It's and Donald Trump is one of the people of this new elite, I would say, in a good sense, because he has the vision of what he wants this country to be, and he kind of put a lot of his skin in the game, so to speak.
Mhm.
So so they don't want it to be, they don't want to be taken over the new type of people who really would be useful for our civilization in general, and they're ready to do anything to stay in power. It's pessimistic, but I see a ray of sunlight
You see, the
in all
thing
this.
is, like, you've got Tucker Carlson, and you say 100 million people were watching him,
122.
but he's not reaching people who watch mainstream media, and they really are the majority still, whatever we like to say about it.
You see, we hear a lot of things about the power of the majority these days. And the other day I heard about certain research done in Colombia, of course, by the lefties. And they analyze the results. I mean, sociology is left field
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
They are interested in the machinations, in the machinery of how to what's going on actually, or to present a picture that they can sell. That's another story. But they said that it's 8 to 10% of the population that you need to get really riled up about the change, and the change will come. It's not like you need to have 51% democracy this, democracy that. No, you
That's an
need.
interesting idea. Tell me, who came up with this?
One of the names, Chernovets or Chernovets, is not like first generation Russian Jew, but close to that. I'm sorry, I have this hearing defect. When I hear a name, I immediately try to find the provenance where the idea came from. But I promise I'll find out. I will see. I don't even remember where I heard this comment, but it's really like Trotsky said, that to do what is called the October Revolt or October Revolution, I need 1,000 people. And 1,000 people took over the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg. And then everybody else realized that life has changed. Of course, they had a lot of sympathizants among them, the aristocracy, among the intelligentsia, people of arts and letters and stuff like that. So this is what we have today. So their idea is to get several thousand really dedicated people, and we have to have our own several thousand dedicated people, and then we'll see. It's not necessarily you win everybody or 51%.
That's an interesting idea, which I didn't know about, and I think I'll have to read around that. I find that very interesting indeed.
Yeah, it's like 300 Spartans type of deal, just to put it.
It wasn't just 300 though. They had
Yeah, I know.
a couple of thousand slaves, didn't they?
No, they come and peasants, and there were a lot of people, of course. But the history keeps its silence. It's 300 Spartans. Period. Demis, thank you so very much for responding to my invitation, and I hope we'll do something else along the lines of what's going on in the world, more concentrated. This time, we, of course, were very broad in the subject matters.
I do enjoy chatting with you,
Yeah,
Yuri.
that's how we do. We have different types of talks for different people. Thank you again. And don't go away. We need to talk some technical details.
Okay. See you.
Goodbye, everybody.